Happy Wednesday, kiddos! Welcome back to our Read Aloud time. We are going to continue today in our Midnight on the Moon book by Mary Pope Osborne, and we are in chapter 5 of Midnight on the Moon. So it is now your turn to go get comfy and cozy. I'll give you a few seconds, and then we'll begin. Go ahead. Okay. Now that you're in your favorite spot, we are going to read chapter 5 entitled Hang On! Before we begin that, let's just quickly review exactly what happened in chapters 3 and 4 that we read on Monday and Tuesday. In chapter 3, Jack and Annie wanted to go outside, but at first they couldn't because it was too hot. So they found spacesuits in the space station, put them on, and got ready to go out. In chapter 4, Jack and Annie were able to go outside, but they had to keep in mind they only had 2 hours of air before they would run out of oxygen and have to go back in the space station. Annie found an amazing moon buggy and they started to drive it, but it was acting a little crazy. So let's read what happens in their adventures today in chapter 5. Hang on! Annie drove the moon buggy over bumps and hollows. It bucked like a bronco. I'm going through there! She pointed to an opening between 2 mountains. Jack held onto the dashboard. The buggy bumped toward the opening and shot through. On the other side, the ground was even rockier. Look for the fourth M thing, said Annie, bouncing up and down. Jack groaned. Looking for anything on this wild ride was impossible. Slow down, he said. How? Try pressing on the brake pedal on the floor. Slowly. Annie pressed on the brake. The buggy slowed down. Jack sighed with relief. The ride was still bumpy, but now, at least, he could take a good look at the moon. He had never been to such a colorless, barren place. There was no green, no blue, no red, no water, no trees, no clouds. Only giant gray rocks and craters. And an American flag. Here's the picture on this page. Oh man, said Jack. That's from the first astronauts who landed on the moon. And look, a telescope, said Annie. She drove near the flag and the telescope. Then she put her foot on the brake until the buggy stopped. She pressed a button that said off. Then she and Jack hopped out. They took slow, giant steps to the site of the first moon landing. Beside the flag was a sign. Annie read it aloud. Here, men from the planet Earth first set foot on the moon, July 1969 AD. We came in peace for all mankind. That's a good message, said Jack. He handed the moon book to Annie. Then he took out his notebook and pencil to copy the sign. Let's leave our own message, said Annie. What should we say? Said Jack. The same thing, said Annie. But say that we are kids. We are the first kids. Jack turned to a new page in his notebook. In big letters, he wrote their message. Now we have to sign it, Annie said. Jack signed his name. Then he passed the notebook and pencil to Annie. She signed her name and passed the notebook back. Jack tore out the piece of paper and he put it by the flag. Today, the first kids from the planet Earth came to the moon. We came in peace for all children. Jack and Annie. No wind would ever blow the message away. No rain would ever fall on it. It would be there forever unless someone moved it. Thinking of forever made Jack feel dizzy. He shook his head to clear his thoughts. Then he remembered the time. Had 2 hours passed yet? I wish I had a watch, he said, standing up. We might be running out of time. Oh, wow! A moon man, said Annie. What? Jack turned to look at her. She was staring through the telescope. Jack walked over to the telescope. Annie stepped aside so he could look too. Jack gasped. In the distance, something was flying above the ground. It looked like a giant man in a spacesuit. That's the end of chapter 5. What do you think is coming towards Jack and Annie? Do you think it's a spaceman? Do you think it's something in their imagination? I don't know. I want to know what you think it is. So, in today's writing, I want you to think about who is coming towards Jack and Annie. Who do you think they're going to see? Is it someone? Or is it someone they're thinking of that isn't real? I want you to write about that today as you go to writing. But before you get there, I want you to practice your reading. So it is now your turn to read your favorite stories. All right, friends, I will see you tomorrow for our last day of our read-alouds. Have a good day.